Happy morning, friends. Let us start. So, the plan that I have in mind over the approximately some 60 hours is I want to cover those chapters which are compared. So, my plan is also to, there are some small handle as homework or self-learning. So, from each chapter, as many chapters as possible, so that I basically plan not to discuss. Yes. Accordingly, I will give you the detailed list of topics I plan to cover. I'll make a small document list and send it across to you guys. Today, anyway, I am planning to start with this chapter called as Advanced Capital Budgeting. Right? Advanced. And by the way, once I give you my list of or my intention of coverage, once I give you the list or intention of coverage, you please also give me a feedback if you want some correction in that, and if everybody feels the same way, I will do that correction. Correct? Depending on what kind of majority you get for your correction, we will incorporate it. Anyway, I will give you my first list. Correct? Yeah. So first I thought I will start with capital budgeting, important areas in capital budgeting, advanced areas in capital budgeting. I thought first I will start. Right? Now, why capital budgeting? Why have I taken capital budgeting? Why have I taken capital budgeting? See, it is easier for me to connect with you guys, isn't it? Because it's also a intertopic, right? So you guys already will have some confidence. More importantly, it is easy for me to connect. Correct? So I thought I'll start with this chapter, Advanced Capital Budgeting. Right? Advanced Capital Budgeting. Important issues in this chapter we will learn. Now, concentrate. See, in this chapter, how I want to discuss. In this chapter, first I want to start with basics. Basics means what? Some time I'll spend in connecting our frequency. Right? When I say something, we should both mean the same. Right? So, basically I'll spend some time to connect or to establish the so call it as acclimatize the sessions. Once I do it, I'll go into specific topics. I'll go into specific topics. Right? Now, the basics itself should give us the lead into the advanced topics. Correct? That's how the basics I have designed. The basics that I am going to discuss now will lead us into the advanced. Right? So how do I see these basics? The basics is the fundamental part alone. to take up the advanced discussions. Whatever discussions you have on, say, Hiller model or decision theory, or may that be adjusted and base case NPV, right? Replacement cycle, whatever, right? So for all that, you need to have some basics, na? So that the fundamental is what I am now going to discuss. Once I discuss the fundamental, from there we will branch out. We will logically understand why these advanced techniques were necessary, and then we will understand how those advanced techniques are applied. Let's go ahead. So first I want to spend some time in basics, or you can also call it as fundamentals. Right. Amma, what is a capital budgeting decision? What is a capital budgeting decision? See, the word capital here stands for assets, right? In your normal terms, you call certain things as revenue expenditure, and you call certain things as capital expenditure. What are capital expenditure? All capital expenditure primarily qualify as assets, right? So it is primarily assets. Okay. About the word capital here stands in that context. It is assets budgeting for assets. Meaning it is all budgeting for see, first of all, what is budgeting? Budgeting is allocating funds for the eligible avenues, right? For whoever needs it, whoever deserves it. When I give money, or when I plan to give money to whoever deserves it, it is like budget, right? So now asset budgeting, meaning what? I am planning to find out the assets which are deserving. I am planning to find out the assets which are deserving for investment. I want to know which of my assets deserve, or I want to know which assets deserve money from my side. Okay. So this is going to be an activity of understanding which of my assets deserve money. Is going to be an activity of finding out which of my assets deserve money from my side as investment, as capital, right? Generally, how do you understand whether an asset deserves money or not? Generally, how do you understand whether an asset deserves money or not? Right. I will understand whether an asset deserves money, or not, based on how far the asset can get me money back. Logical. What is an asset? An asset is a resource that I control, from which I can expect future economic benefits. An asset is a resource that I control, and I can control means what? I can use it in the manner I want to get future economic benefits. Correct? How good an asset it is? ஒரு asset எவ்வளோ asset? ஒரு asset எவ்வளோ பெரிய asset அப்படின்றது எப்படி தெரியும்? How do I measure the magnitude of the asset itself? The size of the value of the asset itself. Obviously it depends on the future potential, right? Obviously it depends on how far it will earn money in future, right? It will depend on how much money it will be able to earn for us in the future. It's benefit generating potential, correct? Right. So an asset's value or whether an asset deserves investment or not depends on the future benefit generating capacity of the asset. Nice. So if I am trying to invest, I will invest in those assets which gives me higher comparative benefits. Whichever gives me higher comparative benefits, on those assets I will invest money now. Mind you, I don't sit on unlimited source of money. I have a restricted source of money, I have to allocate it properly, right? So I have to allocate it to those assets which will give me back the most, right? Whatever small money I have, I should invest it in such a way that I get the best returns, obvious. So I want to know, I want to understand whether an asset deserves investment by looking at its future benefit earning potential, by looking at its future benefit earning potential. Nice. Now, what do you mean by benefit here in this context? What do you mean by benefit here? Correct. In this context, what do we mean by benefit? Amma, benefit na enna? It cannot be the sales that I can generate from that use of the asset. Imagine the asset is a machine, okay, or let's say the asset is a building, okay. The asset is a building situated in some important road. That building is my asset, okay. So I want to check whether I want to invest in this building or not. I want to check whether I want to invest in this building or not, right? And what is the benefit of this asset now? What is the benefit of this asset now? In future, it can get me rents, right? Rents is a benefit, correct? But the rent itself will not be a benefit for me. I have to maintain, right? I have to carry out proper repairs and maintenance. I may have to pay property tax, water tax, etc. All that. So minus maintenance cost, right? So I have to understand how much net benefit this fellow gives me. I have to understand how much net benefit this asset will give me over years. Let us say the building as such will be there only for 5 years. Okay. The asset will actively be there only for how many years? Only for 5 years, right? And at the end of the life of 5 years, obviously, I may also be able to sell. So there is a net benefit over the life. There is a net benefit over the life, plus there is also a sale value or salvage value of the property itself. So these are the future benefits I will get, right? But the question will arise, from where will I get this number? Imagine I am having books of accounts. I have a society here. I have registered a society for this property, and that has a P&L account, right? This is where I debit all the repairs and maintenance, to property tax, to water tax, to security salary, all that, and by rent collected from various properties, various individual houses, right? All that I put in here. So if I collect the number from the P&L, should I collect the number from the P&L? Because there is an item called as depreciation here. Building has to depreciate. Land might not, but building will depreciate, right? So the question generally arises is, should I consider depreciation? Should I consider depreciation as an expense, and calculate only the balance as net benefit. Should I deduct the depreciation and collect the balance or compute the balance only as net benefit and do my stuff? From our inter days, we have been learning, no, depreciation should not be taken. It's a non-cash item. If there is tax impact, then the tax impact alone we can take, right? See, the idea is simple. What is depreciation? Imagine I bought this building for 5 lakhs, just that building part, right? Just that building part is 5 lakhs. And after 5 years, don't confuse the bracket as negative, okay? Let's say it is negative, but let's say I have paid, make it clear. I have paid 5 lakhs to buy this building. I have paid 5 lakhs to buy this building, and at the end of 5th year, the building will be demolished, right? The building will be demolished. It has to be reconstructed again. And when I demolish old, all the windows, wood that I take out of the building, right? All the pieces, scrap pieces that I take, they will get me 1 lakh, let us say, down here. They will get me 1 lakh down here. So effectively, I'll be depreciating 4 lakhs upon 5 years. 80,000 depreciation. Now, tell me, the whole exercise is to understand whether the asset deserves the benefit. I'm sorry, I repeat, whether the asset deserves the investment, budget allocation. Should I invest? Is the budget allocation worthy or not? Correct? Abo, how do you check? Right? How do you check? Imagine this is a weighing balance. Okay? On the one side, I'll put it net benefits, future net benefits. And on the other side, I have to put its initial investment. Correct? And if you feel the future net benefits are better than the initial investment, then only then you will invest. Otherwise, it's a waste of activity. You don't invest, right? Abo, I have to compare the net benefits with initial investment. Now, if you take depreciation here as say 80,000 per annum, right? And initial investment is 5 lakhs. Now, are you not double counting? The 80 lakhs is only what remains from 5 lakhs, na? 80,000 is the recovery of this 5 lakhs for accounting purpose. For financial accounting sakes or for costing sakes, you recover this 80,000 per annum from that year's revenue towards initial investment only. But why are you blaming the asset 2 times? You are saying, hey Mr. Asset, because of you, for you, I am investing 5 lakhs initially. Then you say, hey Mr. Asset, every year depreciation is 80,000 on you. That's wrong. It's not 80,000 every year. That is this 5 lakhs now. First upfront payment also you are taking. Then your accounting gimmick also you are taking. Now you are charging the same thing twice on the asset. That's wrong. So primarily you don't take depreciation in the calculations, right? But if suppose that depreciation is an eligible expense for income tax purposes, if suppose that depreciation is an eligible expense for income tax purposes, then obviously you can show what? You can show it as an expense. Obviously, you can show it as an expense and get the tax benefit. So to the extent of tax benefit, depreciation is worth it. Otherwise, depreciation is not taken. So when you ignore depreciation, or how do I communicate to you that I am ignoring depreciation? By calling it as cash. I'll call it as cash inflows, right, after tax. The word cash here suggests that depreciation has not been charged, right? Depreciation has not been charged, it is pure cash, correct? So the entire capital budgeting decision chapter, when I talk about net benefits from an asset, it will all be in what terms? Cash terms, right? Meaning depreciation will be ignored, only the tax benefit from depreciation will be considered. So now it is about comparing the cash benefits from the assets. The future cash benefits from the assets should be compared with the initial cash outflow, right? Should be compared with the initial cash outflow. And if the future benefits are good when compared to initial outflow, the project investment will be taken. Otherwise the project investment will not be taken, right? So how do I know whether the future net benefits are sufficient for the how do I know whether future net benefits is sufficient for the how do I know whether, see, I am comparing what? Future, I will call it as cash inflows only now. Future cash inflows is getting compared with initial cash outflows. These are the two things which I am comparing. Now, how do you know whether this future is sufficient, future cash inflow is sufficient or not? So, how do we know? Future cash inflows are sufficient, or you can say future cash inflows are good when compared with initial cash outflow, right? So how do I know that the future cash outflows are good? I repeat, future cash inflows are good when compared with the initial cash outflow, right? So when I am trying to invest some money now, anticipating future inflows from it, when I invest some money now, anticipating some future inflows from it, how will I understand that the future cash inflow is justifying the investment that I will make now? Okay pa, I can invest, it is justified. Abdina, how will I know? Okay pa, it is justified. How will I know? Right? Shall I proceed? How will I know? So usually you want the future cash inflows to be greater than what? To be greater than the initial cash outflow. Correct? Should be greater than the initial cash outflow. Right? Now, all right, future cash inflow should be greater, correct? Imagine I am investing 1 lakh now, right? Over the next 3 years, I am getting 10,000 and 80,000 1. So total cash inflow will be 1 lakh, 1 outflow is 1 lakh. So the inflow is good. Is the inflow good here? Is the inflow good here? No, the inflow is not good, right? 1 rupee, right? I have to wait 3 years for getting extra 1 rupee. It does not look good, right? Yeah, it does not look good. Okay, when I say it is 1, it does not look good. When I say it is 1 lakh and 1, it does not look good. Everybody can tell that it's not good. Let me make a small change. Let's say at the 3rd year, it is not 80,001. Let us say it is 1,05,001. 1,05,001. Okay, 1,05,001. Now the total will become 1,25,001. 1,25,001. Now tell me, is it enough? Now tell me, is it enough? No. Are we cooking some sambar in our house? சும்மா அப்படி போடலாம், உப்பு எப்படி இருக்குன்னு டேஸ்ட் பண்ணி பார்ப்போம், நல்லா இருந்தால் ஓகே, இல்லாட்டி இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் உப்பு போடலாம், உப்பு ஜாஸ்தி ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா வெந்நீர் ஊற்றிக்கலாம். நாட் தட் வேனா. அப்போது ஐ நீட் அ சிஸ்டம். I need it, especially when these are companies which are dealing with outsiders' money, shareholders' money, right? Public money. People like me and you invest in shares. That money, the company is investing abdina. The board should be having a mechanism. The board of directors and those who are approving the investment should have a mechanism to say that at least this much more it should be, right? At least the return should be so much more. At least the return must be so much more. Otherwise we won't accept, right? And at least how much more it should be, right? Think about it. In this case, I am getting some 25,000 rupees more over a period of 3 years. I am getting some 25,000 rupees more over a period of 3 years, right? Is it sufficient or not? Again, let's not make, you should not make such a call. You cannot say, okay, pa, over 3 years, 25,000 is good. Over 3 years, 25,000 is bad. No, who are us to make? It's not a thumb rule decision. Na? Apo, how do I even understand whether this 25,000 is good or not? La? The sufficiency element, right? The sufficiency, whether this 25,000 is sufficient or not, whether this 25,000 is sufficient or not, how do I look at it? That is where modern capital budgeting techniques come into play, right? That is where the modern capital budgeting techniques come into play. They will help you understand whether the cash inflow is sufficient, right? Whether they will want you to put in some plugins, right? They are not some AI. They will not give you a artificially thought out answer, right? It's like a normal software. You need to give some plugin. If you give a plugin, it will process the data and give out the answer, right? So the mechanism, by receiving some basic details, how you can analyze whether the returns are sufficient or not, right? By taking some basic details, how you can visualize or how you can understand whether the inflow is sufficient or not. That is what is done by modern capital budgeting, correct? And in modern capital budgeting, we all know the best possible method is what? Net present value, NPV, correct? Now in our advanced capital budgeting, it is going to be out and out NPV, right? Maybe some small places here and there, something else we will calculate. Predominantly we will only be calculating the NPV. Now, so NPV will tell you whether the future cash inflows are sufficient, right? Whether the future cash inflows are sufficient to justify the initial cash outflow, right? Whether the future cash inflows are sufficient to justify the current cash outflow, correct? How does it do it? We know that NPV's formula, the formula for NPV is present value of cash inflows minus present value of cash outflows. right? Present value of cash inflows minus present value of cash outflows. Okay. Slowly we are going into the discussion, right? I am just trying to get acclimatized with you guys so that our frequencies match properly, right? So again, now tell me, what is capital budgeting? It is the process of identifying deserving investments, deserving assets. How will I carry out it? I have to compare the future cash inflows from that asset with the cash outflow. If the future cash inflow is comparatively good or is good when compared with the initial cash outflow, then I will invest. Otherwise, I won't invest. Very nice. Otherwise, I won't invest. Okay, how do you know whether the future cash inflow is sufficient? Will you use the sambar technique? You will calculate it and take a call. Okay, pa, this sambar is good. This is not good. No, you don't take that sambar approach. You have to have a scientific approach, right? You need to know. You need to have a proper system, and the system, if it tells you it's good, then it's good. Otherwise, it's not good, right? Nice. And although we have learned so many modern capital budgeting techniques at our inter level, the best is only NPV. We will understand why it is the best in some time now. We will understand NPV fully properly, right? Then only you will know what kind of advanced issues arise in calculating NPV, and those advanced issues are only your advanced capital budgeting, correct? Now slowly we will go into that. Appo NPV, as I said, instead of taking up a sambar approach, we go for a NPV approach, scientific approach. The best scientific approach is NPV, right? And as per NPV, it is like present value of cash inflows minus present value of cash outflows. It is present value of cash inflows minus present value of cash outflows. Present value of cash inflows minus present value of cash outflows. Now, what is this present value of cash inflow? What is this present value of cash outflow? Let us understand, right? When I say the word present value of cash inflow, what does it mean? How to calculate it first we will see, then we can understand what it is, the logic of it. How do I calculate present value of future cash inflows? How do I calculate the present value of future cash inflows? All of us know it. Most of us at least know it, right? It's not a big deal. But the momentum has to come. If I am going to discuss adjusted NPV, or if I am going to discuss inflation effect, you should understand this background now. Our way of thinking should match, correct? So concentrate. How do I calculate present value of cash inflows? For this purpose, cash inflows can be classified into two parts, right? Differing cash flows then here constant cash flows, correct? One can be differing, the other can be constant. When it is differing future cash flows, what you will do? You will go for specific cash flow. For the year, I am marking it as FTY, specific cash flow for the year into present value factor for the year. Specific cash flow for the year into present value factor for the year. Here, this can further be divided into two parts. Constant amount for limited years for unlimited years. For limited years and for unlimited years, correct? If it is for limited years, then it's called as an annuity. It's called as an annuity. Then what you do, how do you calculate the present value? It is that common cash flow into annuity factor. Common cash flow, CCF nu podrama, common cash flow into annuity factor. Common cash flow into annuity factor. And here it is annual cash flow, or you can here also you can say common cash flow, nothing wrong. Common cash flow divided by rate of return, required rate of return. Common cash flow divided by required rate of return. We are not using factors there, right? So this is the whole story of how you will calculate present value of future cash flows. Now let's understand, having seen how the calculation is done, let's understand what it means, logically what it means. Amma, the whole concept of present value works on a principle of discounting. Works on a principle of discounting. Discounting. What do you mean by discounting? Discounting is from the future cash inflows, I remove the required rate of return, or I remove some rate, right? I take off some percentage return, right? If I remove off some percentage return from the future cash inflows, if I take off some percentage return from the future cash flows. Discounting. What do you mean by disallow, isn't it? Dis here means what? Removing, right? Removing, not keeping it in. So discounting means not counting. So from the future cash inflows, if I remove off from the future cash inflows, if I remove off some percentage, it is called as discounting. So what is discounting? Concentrate carefully. Let's understand seemingly simple things, but small nuance issues are there. If you have it in mind, full clarity will be there. What is discounting? It is removing some percentage return, right? It is removing some percentage return from the future cash inflows. Some percentage return, right? Some percentage return. When I remove some percentage return from the future cash inflows, some percentage return from the cash inflows to arrive at what I have in my hand now is called as discounting, correct? It is called as discounting. From the future cash inflow, how will you arrive? The basic formula is what? P is equal to A, or I'll say, okay, A divided by 1 plus R power n. Correct. So the basic formula in play is this. We know that the mother formula is P into 1 plus R power n equals A. Right? It's a mother of modern finance, right? Modern finance நம்ம சொல்றதே ஒரு 80 வருஷமா உயிரோட தான் இருக்கு. ஸோ அதுக்கே மதர் இந்த ஃபார்முலா தான் P into 1 plus R power n is equal to A, meaning this is future cash flow, this is present cash flow, correct? This 1 plus R here in this context is some return. right? Some return, and this n is term, correct? Meaning the time gap between this A and P, the time gap between the A and P, that is term of time period between A and P, correct? So this is how I find out present value of cash inflows. That is discounting. That is how I will do the discounting. That is how I will do the discounting, correct? Now, once you discount and get na, what is the answer? Apo, in this sense you can say what? In this sense, for what we have learnt up to now, we can say present value P is the principal or worthy principal that I can invest now if I want to earn this return, correct? So what is present value? PV CIF, that is in this case P, correct? PV CIF, that is P. What is the present value? Present value is the worthy principal. Worthy principal. Present value is the worthy, or I can use the word worthy na enna, ஏதோ வளர்றானே அப்படி திட்டாதீங்க, maybe I will change it to fair. Is the fair principle, நியாயமான principle, is the fair principle that I can invest is the fair principle that I can invest for the future cash inflow, for the future cash inflow, if I want to earn, the discount rate. Whatever sum rate that you used na, if I want to earn that rate, if that particular rate I want to earn, right? If that particular rate I want to earn, how much I should invest? If that particular rate I want to earn, how much I should invest? If that particular rate I want to earn, how much I should invest? Okay, that is what that is. It is the worthy principle, fair principle that I can invest now for the future cash inflows. Worthy principle for the future cash inflows, correct? Shall I proceed? No. Think about it. Now that we have understood, see, we are trying to understand NPV. We understood NPV is present value of cash inflows minus present value of cash outflows. Okay, we understood present value of cash inflows equals present value of cash outflows, and we understood how to calculate the present values. Already theriyum, so I am not dwelling too much into it. So or future cash in different cash flows are that specific year's cash flow into that specific year's PV factor. If it is same number again and again for a limited number of years, that common cash flow into annuity factor. If it is unlimited, you have to go for this other formula called as common cash flow divided by required rate of return, or you can say divided by discount rate. We'll discuss that later also. Let's proceed. Once we did that, we understood how this formula actually works, right? How this formula actually works in terms of, we understood how this formula actually works. Adoda oru background, right? In the process, present value calculate pandra process ku peru discounting. The process of calculating the present value, is called as discounting. The process of calculating the present value is called as discounting. Shall I proceed? Present value calculate pandra process ku peru discounting. Present value calculate pandra process ku peru discounting. அப்போது டிஸ்கவுண்டிங்னா என்ன அது இங்கே பார்த்துட்டோம். கரெக்டாக? இட்ஸ் அ ப்ராசஸ் பை விச் ஐ ரிமூவ் அ பர்டிகுலர் ஃபியூச்சர் ரிட்டர்ன். எனக்கு ஏதோ ஒரு ரிட்டர்னை ஃபியூச்சர்லேருந்து ரிமூவ் பண்ணி அந்த ஃபியூச்சர் கேஷ் இன்ஃப்ளோவுக்கு நான் இப்போ எவ்வளோ இன்வெஸ்ட் பண்ணலான்னு கண்டுபிடிக்கிறேன். அந்த ப்ராசஸ்க்கு பேர் தான் டிஸ்கவுண்டிங். ரைட்? அப்போ ப்ரெசன்ட் வேல்யூ இஸ் நத்திங் பட் த worthy principal. Now what is that sum rate that I should use? What is that sum rate that I should use? What is that sum rate that I should use? The answer will be, it is the cost of capital. It is the cost of capital for NPV. For NPV, the discount rate is what we call as cost of capital. Okay? For NPV, the discount rate is what we call as the cost of capital. The discount rate is what we call as the cost of capital. Correct? What is cost of capital? The cost of capital is the required rate of return from the project. Is the required rate of return from the project. Correct? It is the required rate of return from the project. The cost of capital is the required rate of return from the project. Okay. Amma, again I have come back to the same question. How do you know what is the required rate of return from a project? See, here also the same problem. Is 25,001 enough? Right? It will be enough if it is greater than the required return. Otherwise it is not. So how much is the required return? Again, that is the same question. Appo, the secret of effectively answering the question, the secret of effectively answering the question whether a particular investment is okay or not lies in understanding what is the required rate of return. Lies in understanding what is the required rate of return. Correct? It lies in understanding what is the required rate of return of a project. So from a project, how much return should I require? From a project, how much return should I require? How do I know? From a project, how much return should I require? How should I know? How can I even estimate that? How can I even estimate that? See, it is primarily based on the risk that I take. It is primarily based on the risk that I take. Higher the risk, higher should be the return. Lower the risk, lower should be the return. Appo, the cost of capital in turn is determined primarily based on what? Risk of the project. Okay? It is primarily based on the risk of the project. Shall I proceed? It is primarily based, look at my words. It is primarily based on risk of my project. But unfortunately, it is also contaminated with the inflation in the market. Correct? Let's take it one by one. Amma, first let's understand the risk angle. Imagine TCS is issuing a bond giving say 6% return. and there is one unknown limited. It is also giving 6%. I have some money to invest. Will I select the 6% from unknown, or will I select the 6% from TCS? Obvious TCS. Because I don't want to invest in this fellow, right? God knows whether he will repay or not, right? I'm telling no, pa, I cannot invest in you because God knows whether you will repay. By this time he says, okay, I'll give you 7%. Then I say, no, right, it's not about that, still TCS is more safe. By that time he says 8%. Okay, then I slowly start, like that Vijay Sethupathi joke Mari, right? So I slowly start thinking now, right? And then he rises at 9, then I freeze at 9. I take my money out from TCS and put it here. Imagine if this happens. Apo, I expect 9% here. I expect only 6% here. Why did I pay extra? Why did I want extra 3%? It was primarily for the risk, right? See, simple, how the market works here. Risk is a deterrent. When I part away with my money, risk is a deterrent. When I part away with my money, risk will discourage me doing it. In future, whether he will give back or not. What if he does not give back, right? So when I give, when I give the money, whether they will give me back or not, that confusion is there. That is risk, correct? Now, this fear, I will overcome this fear only through greed, right? ஆசை தான் இந்த பயத்துலேருந்து என்னை வெளில கொண்டு வரும், ரைட்? ஆசையோ பேராசையோ whatever, ஒரு பயம் இருக்குது, இந்த பயத்துலேருந்து நான் வெளில வரணும்னா எனக்கு ஒரு ஆசை இருக்கணும், கரெக்ட்? Pretty much the story of life, right? Only when I want something, I daringly do something, and I may, get caught in some problem or something, right? So, appo, the investor needs to be shown the greed of extra money for him to forget the risk. அவன் ரிஸ்க்கை மறந்து வெளில வரணும்னா அதுக்கு அவனுக்கு காசு கொடுக்கணும். அப்போது ரிட்டர்ன் primarily is a compensation for the risk that we take. Return primarily is the compensation for the risk that we take. சரி, ஆமாம், where is any risk in a capital budgeting problem? Where is any risk in any capital budgeting problem? Concentrate. See, imagine if I am giving money to a person, okay? I am giving money to a person, I am lending money to a person, okay? Then I will look at this person, whether this person looks decent, right? Or do I know this fellow at all? I will see whether he can run fast, okay? All that. I will check all that criteria, and only then, if I feel he is not threat, right? Even if he runs, I can run behind him and catch him, okay? Only, just joking, right? Generally speaking, if the borrower is safe, I know that person, if he is safe, now he will lend, correct? But in a business, that does not work. In business, see, you presume honesty. In business, you presume honesty. But you don't presume capability, right? So only thing is, you should understand the capability, not the honesty. See, if this person is, if a particular team of board of directors are not honest, don't evaluate them, simply shun them, right? Get away from them, they are useless, okay? I need honest people for me even to transact, correct? So the honesty here is presumed, but the capability is not. When I give money to a factory, imagine I am investing money in this factory, goods have to come out of this factory. Goods have to come out of this factory and it has to get sold, na? So there can be uncertainty in that. That is only risk for me. Okay, what is risk here? The risk in this context is the future saleability, right, of my goods. As I stand here, as I rather sit here and do my math, okay, do my math regarding the future, I may think about some sales, but whether this sales will happen in future or not, I don't know. Whether this sales in future will happen or not, I don't know, right? I thought every year sales will go up by 20%, but it went up only by 7%, 8%. It's a risk, right? Appo the risk in a capital budgeting decision lies in the certainty in estimating the future cash inflows. The risk in a capital budgeting decision lies in the certainty. The risk in capital budgeting decision lies in the degree of certainty of estimating the future cash inflows. How far I can calculate the future cash inflows in a certain way. How far I can calculate the future cash inflows in a certain way, right? In a what to say, in a confirmed confident way, right? Or how far it will keep varying. Do you agree? Appo obviously factors like elasticity of demand, right? What kind of elasticity of demand I have for my product, who is my market segment, how that market segment behaves, what is the nature of my goods, all that will apply, don't you think? All that will apply. How far my goods are, essential or non-essentials in my product, how the people will react to a price change, all that. So primarily it is all about risk, right? So based on the risk I should fix some rate. Based on the risk I should have some rate. Like here, when it was TCS I took 6%, but when it was something else I took 9%, something similar to that. So based on the risk involved in the project, apana what is this project for? This project is for manufacturing what type of goods? This project is for manufacturing what type of goods? How safe that goods is in the future, right? So what kind of risk will be there in the dispatch of these goods to the market in future? Based on that, and the risk base panni, you need to fix a percentage. How will I fix a percentage? Again, here 6 or 9% I told is like again the sambar technique. Okay, 6% வேணாம்பா, 7 po, 8 po, 9 po, இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் உப்பு போடு அப்படின்ற மாதிரி இருக்குல்ல. அப்போ அதுக்கும் we have solution. You have solution. How to how to justify? Again, see, if I am a board of director in a company and I am taking your money as shareholders, you are all shareholders, I have taken your money and I am deciding to invest in a project now. Later when you ask me why did you invest, I should be able to show you some working. I should have a logical way of showing you how the risk was used to determine the return percentage. How the risk was used to compute the return percentage. Understood? எப்படின்னா ரிஸ்கை வச்சு ரிட்டர்ன் பர்சன்டேஜ் கண்டுபிடிச்சேன் அப்படின்னு ஷேர் ஹோல்டர்ஸ் ஆன உங்களுக்கு நான் சொல்ல முடியணும். சரிப்பா, ஷேர் ஹோல்டருக்கு சொல்ல மாட்டேன், மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் ஆடிட் வரும்போது சொல்லணும். I should tell my position clearly to some person, right? It should not be like I have cheated. It should not be like I have adopted a sambar technique, right? I should neither be fraudulent nor be inefficient. Appo I need some method. I need some method to understand how the risk actually is calculated, right? So that's where in your portfolio theories you would have studied, that's where you would have studied a theory called as CAPM, capital asset pricing model, correct? Look at the name. அது நம்ம கேபிட்டல் பட்ஜெட்டிங் சாப்டர்லேயே படிச்சிருக்கலாம் ஆக்சுவலாக, பட் நம்ம சிலபஸில் அது எங்கே இருக்குது, போர்ட்ஃபோலியோ தியரிஸில் இருக்குது. CAPM, I think it's also there in equity valuation something, leave it. So here, as the name clearly tells you, capital asset pricing model, it's a model used for pricing capital assets, correct? What do you mean by model used for pricing capital assets? What do you mean by worthy principle? What do you mean by worthy principle? Imagine an asset gives me 100 rupees every year for the next 3 years. 100, 100, 100. That's all. I want 10% return. How much should I invest now? For this first 100, if I discount, it is 90.91. This is 82.64. This is 75.13. These are all my lucky numbers. No, I have discounted. I have multiplied with the present value factors and added. So it's going to be, right? So 248.68, something like that. Say 248 approx. Okay? It will be approximately like 248 or something. Correct? Now, this 248 rupees is the fair principal for the future 100, 100 and 100. Correct? For the future 100, 100 and 100, how much can I give now? 248. Now, if it is not an investment, if it is an asset, this is the future cash inflow from the asset, and this is the price you are ready to pay. Price to pay. This is the price which you are ready to pay for that asset. Correct? Now look at the model's name, capital asset pricing model. For pricing a capital asset, this model tells you how to calculate this return. For pricing an asset, capital asset, for pricing a capital asset, this model tells you how to discover the required rate of return. How to discover the required rate of return. Right? So primarily we know from our intradays it is RF plus beta times RM minus RF. Correct? I don't want to go into this now. We'll discuss it in the sessions as it comes. Right? So for now, understand simply how the return is done. Imagine I'm investing in a project. I am investing in a project to sell. I am investing in a project which will produce and sell, say, water bottles. Okay? So what I will do, I will take x-axis as, let's say, index, Nifty, some index. Y-axis water bottle, correct? So I will understand how risky the water bottle business when compared to index. Water bottle oda returns you, index oda returns you mark panni, how risky in check pannipen. Get one times, right? That's primarily called as beta. Again come back. I told you that I need to fix a percentage of cost of capital based on risk. Correct? So what I will do now, an index, see, let's say, I'll say for an index, for its risk, index for its risk is giving so much of return. This is common basis. My water bottle project, for its risk, how much it should give? Something like cross multiplication I will do and I will get the answer. Something like cross multiplication I will do and I will get the answer. You are able to visualize? Something like cross multiplication I will do and I will get the answer. Appo, the risk, I repeat, the required rate of return for a project should be assessed from. The required rate of return from a project should be assessed based on the risk involved in the project. How do I know the risk involved in the project? It is based on the nature of the goods that you are going to produce and sell from that project. You compare it with the index or any other benchmark. For example, index and any other benchmark, and understand that accepted benchmark, what is the risk return ratio? For its risk of so much percentage, it is giving so much of return. This is an accepted profile, accepted ratio. So in that same ratio, my project should also give me what? Return. This is the inferred return. Market la or நிஃப்டியோ சென்செக்ஸோ இல்லை வேறு ஏதோ ஒரு அக்செப்டட் பெஞ்ச்மார்க், அவன் தன்னுடைய ரிஸ்க்குக்கு எவ்வளோ ரிட்டர்ன் கொடுக்குறான். அப்போ இந்த வாட்டர் பாட்டில் ப்ராஜெக்ட் அதில் எனக்கு வரப்போகிற ரிஸ்க்குக்கு அது எவ்வளோ கொடுக்கணும் அப்படி கண்டுபிடிச்சிப்போம். கரெக்டாக? ஸோ based on the risk involved, we will calculate the percentage return. So primarily, now put everything together. Now primarily put everything together. From the future cash inflows, you discount, remove the required rate of return. You discount and remove the required rate of return and find out the present value of cash inflows. The present value of cash inflows, therefore, is the worthy principle. The present value of cash inflows is the worthy principle. Correct? Compare this worthy principle with the actual principle. Okay? Actually, whatever rate they want us to give, na, actually the seller of the asset, he wants some money, na. That actual principle, with that actual principle you compare. So your formula is like present value of cash inflows, which is the worthy principle, minus present value of cash outflows, which is the actual principle. Correct? You compare these two and find out whether the answer is positive or not. If the answer is positive, it means what? I can invest, let's say the present value of cash inflow is 600, present value of cash outflow is 500. Meaning I can invest 600, but the shopkeeper wants me to give only how much? 500. There is a surplus of 100 rupees, then you will accept the project. Otherwise you will reject the project. That's how NPV worked, na, in our intradays. Right? In our intradays, how did we calculate NPV? It is like, how did we decide based on NPV? It was present value of cash inflows minus present value of cash outflows. Present value of cash inflows minus present value of cash outflows. Correct? Now concentrate. Appo present value of cash inflows is otherwise called as what? Fair principle. Right? What is fair principle? Maximum investment possible. Right? So I can invest up to that money, maximum I can invest up to that money, minus present value of cash outflow. It is what? Actual principle. Right? Actual principle. If what I can invest is more than what I have to invest, I am ready to, this is what I am ready to invest. I am ready to invest the present value of cash inflows, but I am asked to invest only the actual cash inflows. That is actual cash outflow, actual principle. Right? Present value of cash inflow is what I am ready to invest. Actual principle is what I have to invest. If I am ready to invest 600 rupees, but I have to invest only 500 rupees, then positive 100 It means what? I create wealth, right? I am happy, I'll go and invest in that project. I am happy, I'll go and invest in that project. No confusions. You are able to visualize, right? Apo, please understand this is fair principle. This is fair principle for a given cost of capital. ஏதோ ஒரு காஸ்ட் ஆஃப் கேபிட்டல் பர்சன்டேஜ், ஏதோ ஒரு காஸ்ட் ஆஃப் கேபிட்டல் லெவலுக்கு இது நியாயமான பிரின்சிபல், ரைட்? இப்போ எனக்கு அந்த காஸ்ட் ஆஃப் கேபிட்டல் பர்சன்டேஜ் வேணும்னு நினச்சா, if I think I want to earn that particular cost of capital, this is the maximum amount that I can invest. If I want to earn the cost of capital, this is the maximum amount that I can invest. More than that I cannot invest. I will keep this mind. I will keep this number in mind and ask the vendor how much is that asset. If the vendor tells a lower number, I will buy happily, thinking I have saved so much, right? If the shopkeeper asks me for more, then I will reject and come out, right? I'll say no, I don't want. Shall I proceed? Apo, this is the concept here. Apo, what is present value of cash inflow when discounted at cost of capital? When discounted at cost of capital, the present value of cash inflow can be understood as present value of cash inflow. நம்ம எப்படி எல்லாம் புரிஞ்சுக்கலாம்? What are all the ways in which we can understand present value of cash inflows? Point number 1, it is the fair principle. It is the fair principle to earn the cost of capital, correct? Point number 2, it is the maximum amount that you are ready to invest in that project. It is the maximum amount that you are ready to invest in that project. Point number 3, it is the fair value of the project assets. It is the fair value of the project's assets, right? Valuation adhe thane, right? Fair value. What is the fair value of any asset in finance? Is the present value of all future cash inflows when discounted at the required rate of return of the investor, valuer. So in this case, required rate of return is cost of capital, so it should be the fair value, correct? So you can understand present value of cash inflows. You can understand present value of cash inflows as any of this, right? It is the what? It is the fair principle. It is the maximum principle. It is the fair value of the asset. But one thing you remember, I should have used what to discount it? I should have used the cost of capital to discount it, right? And in turn, how is cost of capital? In turn, how is cost of capital calculated? Cost of capital in turn is calculated based on the risk of the project. Based on the risk of the project, right? How do you know? How risk you return you? Adavadhu risk eppadi RROR மாத்துவீங்க? How do you convert risk into required rate of return? How do you convert risk into required rate of return? Question arises, na? That's where CA+PM comes, right? For a given risk, what should be the return? CA+PM will teach us, but that is not necessary in this chapter. So in this chapter, they will give you cost of capital, correct? Predominantly, they will give you cost of capital, or we may have to do some analysis that we are going to learn now. Advanced techniques la alladha kathukka porom, correct? So but understand the core now first. The risk involved in the project is dependent on cost of capital, correct? So, and how this cost of capital works? Not discounting. From the future cash inflows, you remove it, discount it, right? What is the formula to discount? P into 1 plus R power n is equal to A is the mother formula. So when you search for P from a future A is the future cash flows. So A divided by 1 plus R power n should be equal to P. இப்படி ஃபியூச்சரில் இருக்கிற ஒவ்வொரு கேஷ் ஃப்ளோலேருந்தும் ரிட்டனை ரிமூவ் பண்ணி எடுத்து ரிட்டனை டிஸ்கவுண்ட் பண்ணி பிரின்சிபல் கண்டுபிடிச்சிங்கன்னா, ஆமாம், ஃபியூச்சர் மெச்சூரிட்டி வேல்யூ இஸ் ஈக்குவல் டு பிரின்சிபல் ப்ளஸ் ரிட்டர்ன் தானே? Principal plus return is equal to maturity value. So when from the future maturity value, you remove off the return, from the future maturity value, you remove off the return, you will obviously land on the principal, correct? So the process of removing, inga neenga remove pannadhu actual return ya, cost of capital, fair return ya, fair return, you are able to visualize, right? So when I remove the fair return, the cost of capital, obviously you land on the fair principle, not on the actual principle. Shall I proceed? So that is regarding the first level base. Maybe one last observation I want to make. What is the difference between cost of capital and IRR? Once we have this understanding clearly, then I can go for advanced issues. Right? So, basics la one more issue. What is the difference between what is the difference between what is the difference between cost of capital and IRR? Ama concentrate. Cost of capital is the fair return percentage. Cost of capital percentage is equal to fair return percentage. Correct? Fair na enna? Based on risk. Correct? Fair na based on risk. Fair na based on risk. Shall I proceed? See, what is fair will change, like beauty. It lies in the eyes of the beholder. பார்க்குறவன் பார்வையை பொறுத்து தான் அழகுன்றதுன்ற மாதிரி எது நியாயன்றது பார்க்குறவன் பார்வையை பொறுத்து தானே. ஒருத்தனுக்கு இது நியாயமாக இருக்கலாம், இன்னொருத்தனுக்கு வேற ஒன்று நியாயமாக இருக்கலாம். இங்கே அப்படி இல்லை. இங்கே ஃபேர்னா பேஸ்ட் ஆன் வாட் ரிஸ்க். அதுதான் நான் உங்களுக்கு சிஏபிஎம்லாம் சொன்னேன். கரெக்டாக? ஆனால் ஐஆர்ஆர் பர்சன்டேஜ் இஸ் லைக் த ஆக்சுவல் ரிட்டர்ன். Right? Actual return percentage. Right? Actual return. Actual na, I am not saying post-mortem. Actual return expected in the future cash inflows. Don't think that I am talking about post-mortem. Actually last year என்ன return அது இல்லை, future தான். ஆனால் actual, what does it mean? Or you can say what is naturally given by the asset, what is expected to be given by the asset. What is naturally expected to be given by the asset. அந்த அசட்லேருந்து நேச்சுரலாக எனக்கு எவ்வளோ ரிட்டர்ன் வருது. வாட் இஸ் நேச்சுரலி எக்ஸ்பெக்டட் டு பி கிவன் பை த அசட். அந்த அசட்லேருந்து எனக்கு எவ்வளோ ரிட்டர்ன் வருது. அந்த அசட்லேருந்து எனக்கு எவ்வளோ ரிட்டர்ன் வருது. கரெக்டாக? வாட் இஸ் நேச்சுரலி எக்ஸ்பெக்டட் டு பி கிவன் பை த அசட். கான்சன்ட்ரேட். Imagine a project gives, I have to invest 90 rupees. Okay, I have to invest 90 rupees in a project. Now cash outflow year 0, and it gives me at the end of year 1 cash inflow 100. Correct? Shall I proceed? Now what is the return it is giving me? இதை நீங்கள் கம்பேர் பண்ணிங்கன்னா what is the return it is actually giving me? I can say 90, I have invested 90 into 1 plus some r percentage for 1 year is been 100. அப்போ 1 plus r is equal to 100 by 90. Right? 1 plus r is equal to 100 by 90. 100 by 90 I think is 1.11. Right? 1 plus r. அப்போ r is equal to 0.1111. that is 11.11% per annum. Now, is this what I want from the project, or it is what the project is giving me? It is what the project is giving me, correct? It is what the project is giving me. It is not what I want. Okay, naturally, if somebody says you invest 90 rupees now, at the end of 1 year I will give you 100 rupees. If somebody says you invest 90 rupees now and I will give you how much rupees after 1 year? 100 rupees after 1 year, then obviously the project is giving me 11.11%. Do I want to invest in it or not? We should not answer that question. If I answer that question, okay, pa 11.11 is kind of good soil. No, that is sambar technique, right? If I want to invest in it or I don't want to invest in it, you should answer by looking at your cost of capital, right? What is the cost of capital for this project? You should understand, correct? That you will understand only based on the risk, right? Enna risk? What is the certainty of this 100? Well, this fellow says he will pay 100 in 1 year's time, right? This fellow says he will give 100 in 1 year's time. This may be 60, right? This may also be 130. I don't know. There is some volatility here. So based on the risk, I want to have a return. That risk-based return is what we understand as cost of capital, correct? Imagine the same 11% another bank is also giving. This is a private sector investment. Another scheduled bank is also giving me the same 11%. Where will I go? Scheduled. Apo risk is mattering, na? Right? How far this 100 is certain? What is the guarantee that this 100 will be got? That is an important thing to understand. Shall I proceed? That is an important thing to understand. So based on that, I will go ahead. Based on that, I will go ahead and do. Shall I proceed? Now, IRR is the natural return that a project gives, that an asset gives to us. I cannot make a decision based on that. My decision of whether to invest or not should always be based on the cost of capital. Cost of capital in turn is the return that I want from the project, and the return that I want from the project I should know based on the risk that I take from the project. That's all, correct? And how do I actually practically put it into play? By discounting. எனக்கு காஸ்ட் ஆஃப் கேபிட்டல் தெரிஞ்சு போச்சுப்பா, நான் எடுக்கிற ரிஸ்க்கு இவ்வளோ பர்சன்டேஜ் வேணும்னு. அப்போது அந்த பர்சன்டேஜ் ரிஸ்க்கை வச்சு நான் எப்படி என்னுடைய கேபிட்டல் பட்ஜெட்டிங் டெசிஷன் எடுக்கிறது? என்பிவி. அந்த டிஸ்கவுண்ட், அந்த காஸ்ட் ஆஃப் கேபிட்டலை டிஸ்கவுண்ட் ரேட்டாக யூஸ் பண்ணுங்கள். ரிஸ்க்கை பேஸ் பண்ணி நீங்கள் கண்டுபிடிச்ச காஸ்ட் ஆஃப் கேபிட்டலை டிஸ்கவுண்ட் ரேட்டாக யூஸ் பண்ணுங்கள். டிஸ்கவுண்ட் பண்ணிங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு ப்ரெசென்ட் வேல்யூ ஆஃப் கேஷ் இன்ஃப்ளோன்னு ஒன்று வரும். அந்த டிஸ்கவுண்டட் கேஷ் இன்ஃப்ளோன்றது என்னது? present value of cash inflow என்றது என்னது? It is the worthy principle. Now compare it with the actual principle, right? அந்த அசட்டை விற்கிறவன் ஆர் அந்த அசட்டை நீங்கள் வாங்குறதுக்கு எவ்வளோ செலவு பண்ணணும்னு பாருங்கள். present value of cash inflow எவ்வளோ வருதுன்னு பாருங்கள். If the present value of cash inflow is more, it means you can spend more than that, right? அவன் கேட்குற பணத்தை விட கூட அதிகமாக கொடுக்கலான்னு நம்பர் வருது. So happily invest. If the present value of cash inflow is less, now don't invest. அப்போ think about it. If present value of cash inflow is 600, actual cash outflow is only 500, now it means what? Even if I invest 600 rupees, I will earn cost of capital percentage. Leah, 600 rupees is the money that you should invest. 600 rupees is the money that you should invest to earn what? 600 rupees is the money that you should invest to earn your cost of capital percentage per annum. உங்களுடைய per annum cost of capital earn பண்ணுறதுக்கு நீங்கள் இப்போ இன்வெஸ்ட் பண்ண வேண்டிய பணம் அதுதான் என்னது? present value of cash inflows 600. அப்போ if I invest 600, I will earn cost of capital. If you invest 500, you will earn cost of capital less than cost of capital, more than cost of capital. Principal is reducing. அப்போ you will even more than ஆக்சுவலாக நீங்கள் இன்வெஸ்ட் பண்ணுறது கம்மி. 600 ரூபா வரைக்கும் செலவு பண்ணலாம். For the future cash inflows you can spend up to 600. But for the same future cash inflows, you are spending only 500. That gap of 100 will also add and come to your pocket. Over and above the cost of capital that you will earn, right, you will also pocket the difference between initial cash outflow and the present value of cash inflows. So that's a good situation. That is how NPV helped us solve. That is how NPV helped us solve. All these are interest stuff, hence I am not going into much details, right? All these are inter stuff. Now, see, to do this, to implement NPV properly, you need to calculate future cash inflows. Correct? You need to calculate future cash inflows and discount it at the cost of capital. Don't you think? You need to calculate the future cash inflows, and the future cash inflows must be discounted at the rate of cost of capital, and cost of capital predominantly is based on risk nu sonna. Correct? Predominantly is based on risk. How to handle this risk? Can you avoid risk? Can you eliminate risk? No, we cannot avoid risk, we cannot eliminate risk, right? Risk is always present, it is natural. Risk is natural. Apo, you should only try to navigate risk. You should only try to factor risk scientifically in your decisions. உங்களுடைய டெசிஷன்ஸில் ரிஸ்க்கை சயின்டிஃபிக்காக நம்ம என்ன பண்ண தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும், ஃபேக்டர் பண்ண தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும். கரெக்டாக? ஸோ ஆமாம், with the basics that we just now discussed, let's go into the advanced issues order background, right? The background of advanced issues. The background of the advanced issues. Concentrate. Correct? Now, see, when I discount my NPV using cost of capital, I should do two things. I should factor uncertainty in future cash inflows. I should factor uncertainty in future cash inflows. I should factor inflation. Right? Amma, in my cost of capital, I should be aware, I should be sensitive to two things: how uncertain future cash inflows are, and what kind of role does inflation play in it. How uncertain future cash inflows are, and how inflation plays a role in determining the cost of capital. It's a contamination, no other go, contaminated. Amma, pure cost of capital should only be based on risk, right? Risk is the pure measure of cost of capital, but unfortunately we know we are living in times of inflation. The use of fiat money makes us what? Face inflation, right? No other go. Otherwise we have to go back to barter. That's not possible, right? So inflation recurradanaala we have to face the consequences or contamination of inflation. How to factor the contamination of inflation is one discussion. How to face uncertainty is another discussion. Or factor uncertainty in future cash inflows in calculating discount rate, cost of capital is another discussion, right? So here there are various discussions. There is one modern, one traditional, all that we will discuss. When we go there, we will go. Correct. First, I want to start with the basic first discussion, inflation. So make the heading advanced capital budgeting. Under that, first heading, inflation in capital budgeting. Inflation in capital budgeting. Inflation in capital budgeting. Inflation in capital budgeting. Right? Inflation in capital budgeting. See, point number 1, kindly note point number 1. Point number 1. The most suitable measure, the most suitable measure, the most suitable measure to evaluate a project, to evaluate a project, to evaluate a project is, to evaluate a project is the net present value technique. Is the net present value technique. And to apply the net present value technique, and to apply the net present value technique, we need to know the cost of capital. We need to know the cost of capital applicable for the project. We need to know the cost of capital applicable for that project. We need to know the cost of capital applicable for that project. Next point, the cost of capital is the fair rate of return. The cost of capital is the fair rate of return that the investor should expect, that the investor should expect from the project. From the project, considering the risk involved in the project. Considering the risk involved in the project. Next point, the risk in a project the risk in the project is the dangers associated with the predicted future cash inflows the predicted future cash inflows going wrong. The predicted future cash inflows going wrong. Bracketல uncertainty in future cash inflows. 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 Next point. Higher the risk, higher should be the return to motivate investment. Higher the risk, higher should be the return to motivate investment. Higher the risk, higher should be the return to motivate investment. Higher the risk, higher should be the return to motivate investment. Next point. Amma, concentrate. Now, in this background, we are now going to introduce the contamination of inflation. See, இது வரைக்கும் எல்லாம் சூப்பராக போயின்னு இருக்கு. நான் எவ்வளோ இன்வெஸ்ட் பண்ணமோ அந்த பணம் எனக்கு தெரியும், 500 rupees. ஃப்யூச்சரில் கேஷ் இன்ஃப்ளோஸ் நிறையா வரப்போகிறது. அந்த நான் இப்போ ஃபோர்காஸ்ட் பண்ணி வச்சுருக்கேன், ஆனால் அந்த ஃபோர்காஸ்ட்டில் அன்சர்டனிட்டிஸ் இருக்குது. அந்த அன்சர்டனிட்டி அதிகமாக இருந்தால் அதிக ரிட்டர்ன் வச்சுப்பேன், கம்மியாக இருந்தால் கம்மி ரிட்டர்ன் வச்சுப்பேன். ஏதோ ஒன்று அந்த கேஷ் ஃப்ளோவோடைய அன்சர்டனிட்டியை பொறுத்து ஒரு ரிட்டர்ன் பர்சன்டேஜ் ரிட்டர்ன் கண்டுபிடிச்சிட்டேன். அந்த ரிட்டர்னை அந்த ஃப்யூச்சர் கேஷ் இன்ஃப்ளோலேருந்து டிஸ்கவுண்ட் பண்ணி எடுத்துட்டேன். டிஸ்கவுண்ட் பண்ணி எடுத்துட்டா பர்சன்ட் வேல்யூ ஆஃப் கேஷ் இன்ஃப்ளோஸ்னு ஒன்று வருது. அந்த பர்சன்ட் வேல்யூ ஆஃப் கேஷ் இன்ஃப்ளோன்றது என்ன? இட் இஸ் த மேக்ஸிமம் அமௌண்ட் ஐ கேன் இன்வெஸ்ட். லெட் அஸ் சே இட் இஸ் 600 in our example. ஸோ ஐ கேன் மேக்ஸிமம் இன்வெஸ்ட் 600. அந்த ப்ராஜெக்டை இன்வெஸ்ட் பண்ண எனக்கு எவ்வளோ செலவாகும்னு பார்த்தேன். கணக்கெல்லாம் கூட்டினா மெஷினு அது இதெல்லாம் சேர்த்து 500 தான் வருது. அப்போது ஐ கேன் இன்வெஸ்ட் அட் 500 rupees, but the potential is up to 600, so I'll happily invest. Very nice. But the problem here is the calculations are naturally contaminated by inflation. நான் ஃப்யூச்சர் கேஷ் இன்ஃப்ளோஸ் கவுண்ட் பண்ணும்போது, ஃப்யூச்சர் கேஷ் இன்ஃப்ளோஸ் நான் எடுக்கும்போது, we are using something called as a fiat money, meaning paper printed money. இல்லை அப்போது because of this, if I have a wrong, or அந்த மணிக்குள்ளே கூட போவானா, பேசிக் லாஜிக் எடுங்க. The speed at which capital is getting formed in the economy, the speed at which I produce cars, bikes, chairs, tables, and the speed at which babies are getting produced, there is no competition. You know who wins. The babies that are born is faster than the new products that are coming in. Appo there are more consumers created naturally than the products. More consumers when compared to what is consumed. More people are competing. Appo obviously for every product there is going to be some inflation. For every product there is going to be some inflation. Now this inflation should also be factored, because when I invest in a project now, The project is going to give me money right now, it will give me money only in the future. It will give me money only in the future. And when the money comes to me in the future, by that time what would have set in? By that time inflation would have set in. Don't you agree? So I'll be facing inflation also, na? Correct? So next point, note down. Typically, next point, star mark and note down. Typically, the cost of control, cost of capital. Typically, the cost of capital. Typically, the cost of capital will have to be contaminated with inflation. Will have to be contaminated with inflation. Typically, cost of control will have to be contaminated with inflation. As when we predict future cash flows, 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 it will naturally have to include inflation. 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 Okay? It will naturally have to include inflation. அப்போ இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் அதில் ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்காக நேச்சுரலாக அதில் இன்க்ளூட் ஆகிருக்கும் இல்லையா? அப்போது இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் அதில் இன்க்ளூட் ஆகிருக்கிறதுனால ஃப்யூச்சர் கேஷ் ஃப்ளோவில் இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் இருக்குது. அப்போது அதுலேருந்து நான் ரிமூவ் பண்ணுறது ரிட்டர்ன் மட்டும் ரிமூவ் பண்ணிட்டா மை ஆன்சர் வில் பி ராங்னா. ஸோ கன்டினியூ தேர் அண்ட் நோட் டவுன். accordingly the cost of capital that we use as discount rate, the cost of capital that we use as discount rate should also factor inflation. Should also factor inflation. Should also factor inflation. Should also factor inflation. Should also factor inflation, so that the appropriate principle can be arrived at. Can be arrived at. Correct? Concentrate. What am I meaning here? Imagine I am going to sell some product, let's say a product X. I am going to sell a product X. I am trying to predict future cash inflows. I am trying to predict future cash inflows. Okay? I am trying to predict what for my project? Future cash inflows. Now I know that, or my marketing team said that I will be able to sell 100 units of my product for the next 3 years each. Units sold. Okay. Year 1, year 2, year 3. For the 3 years, right? I'm going to sell how many units every year? For the 3 years, I'm going to sell 100 units every year. I'm going to sell 100 units every year. Now, let us say the selling price of the product, selling price per unit is 50, or let's say 10. Selling price is 10. Okay, selling price is 10. For the first year, my sales will be 10 into 100,000. For the first year, my sales will be 10 into 100,000. Shall I proceed? Now, second year, my input costs are going to go up by 10%. Imagine I am factoring an inflation of 10% in input cost. Now, can I ignore the inflation and do the projection? I will have to naturally include inflation and do it. I will have to naturally include inflation and do it. என்னோட மெட்டீரியல், லேபர், ஓவர்ஹெட்ஸ் are going to become costlier. My material, labor and overheads are all going to become costlier in future. Imagine, right? My material, labor and overheads are going to become costlier in future, right? If they are going to become costlier in future, obviously, will I be continuing to sell at 10 rupees? I will factor that. I'll factor that. So, second year, I am going to take 11 rupees up by 10%. On this 10%, 11 plus 1.1, that is 12.1. Okay. So, what is my sales now? 1100, 1210. Okay. This is going to be my sales. Shall I proceed? Let us say my cost was first year 500, second year 550, third year 605. Okay, this is my cost. My cash inflows, profit will be what? 500 for the first year, second year it is 550, and third year it is 605. I have deducted. Now tell me, my future projections are including inflation. Yes, are including inflation. Correct? Now, if I discount this future cash inflows, if I discount this future cash inflows just with the risk premium, real return rate, if I discount this only with real return rate, what I will land has not removed inflation. The fair value of my asset will include the inflation. Isn't it? That's wrong, no? You are able to visualize. Should I see in the business la எனக்கு வேணுன்ற ரிட்டர்னை மட்டும் நான் ரிமூவ் பண்ணா போருமா? இதில் இன்ஃப்ளேஷனோட எஃபெக்டும் வச்சிருக்கேன். Inflation accrues only in the future. Inflation happens only in the future years. When I calculate the present value, should it include the number for inflation? That should also be removed off. Whatever the creamy layer you added for inflation should also be removed to arrive at the basic number. Correct? So, if future cash inflows are loaded with inflation, when you calculate the present value, obviously it should be discounted. right? Obviously, you should discount also for the inflation. That is the point I have made there. Accordingly, the cost of capital should also include the discount rate so that the appropriate number can be got. So that the appropriate principle can be arrived at. You are able to visualize what I am saying? Any issues here? See, my cost of capital as a percentage should only be return percentage, or it should also be contaminated with inflation. It should also be contaminated with inflation. வேற வழி இல்லை, என்னுடைய ஃபியூச்சர் கேஷ் ஃப்ளோ ப்ரொஜெக்ஷன்ஸில் இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் இருக்குது அப்படின்னா அந்த இன்ஃப்ளேஷனை நாக் ஆஃப் பண்ணுற மாதிரி, அந்த இன்ஃப்ளேஷனை நாக் ஆஃப் பண்ணுற மாதிரி, இப்போது ரிட்டர்ன் எனக்கு 6% வேணும்னு வச்சுக்கலாம். இஃப் ஐ டூ 500 into 1 by 1.06 first year, 550 into 1 by 1.06 the whole square, you are only removing what? The return. But this cash flow will still include the inflation, right? Inflation இருக்கிற நம்பர் கொண்டு கூட்டி அதை present value ன்னு சொல்வீங்க, principal ன்னு சொல்வீங்க. Is the principal, should the principal include inflation? It should not. Should I discount only using the return part? I should also discount using the inflation. I should also discount using the inflation. Shall I proceed? Let's go ahead and note down next point. Hence, the cost of capital which includes the effect of inflation, the cost of capital which includes the effect of inflation, the cost of capital which includes the effect of inflation, the cost of capital which includes the effect of inflation is known as the nominal discount rate, is known as the nominal discount rate, while the cost of capital, while the cost of capital while the cost of capital which only includes the real return expected from the project, the real return expected from the project is called as the real discount rate, RDR. Is known as the real discount rate, RDR. Correct? Next point. The relationship between the real discount rate, the relationship between the real discount rate and the nominal discount rate and the nominal discount rate is given below, is given below. Nominal discount rate is equal to nominal discount rate is equal to within brackets I'll say 1 plus real discount rate into 1 plus inflation rate minus 1. Minus 1. Correct? So, enna valarran? Amma, the numbers will be like this. The numbers will be like this. Imagine I gave 100 rupees to a person. Correct? I gave 100 rupees to a person as investment and I expected 6% return. I expected how much percentage return? 6% return. I gave how much rupees principal? 100 rupees principal and I expected a return of 6%. And the ஆளுனுடைய risk பொறுத்து, based on the risk levels of that person, I believe, based on the risk levels of that person, I believe I need how much percentage return? I need 6% return. Correcta? Appo 100 plus 6, he should give me how much? 106 rupees. But I gave this money to him now, but he will give it to me only after say 1 year. I gave the money to him now and he will give me the money after only 1 year. And he will give me the money only after 1 year. Shall I proceed? During this time, there is inflation. During this time, there is inflation. So imagine the inflation rate is 10% during this time. Correct? The inflation is 10 rupees. 10% during this time. Shall I proceed? Appo, simple logic. Old money, new money. Old money, new money. Right? Before, without inflation, if it is 1 rupee, with inflation I should give what? 1.1. Without inflation, it is 1.06 now, correct? Or if you 106 now. How much I should give? Correct? Without inflation is old money, with inflation is new money, correct? Can I use that parlance? Right? Old money, new money in சொல்றப்பனா என்ன அர்த்தம்? இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் இல்லாம இருந்த வேல்யூ. தமிழ்ல அழகான வார்த்தை பணவீக்கம். ரைட்? இன்ஃப்ளேஷனுங்கிறது தமிழில், இங்கிலீஷ்லேயும் அழகான வார்த்தை தான், ஏன்னா நமக்கு இங்கிலீஷ் தெரியாதுன்றது தான். ரைட்? தமிழில் தே கால் இட் அஸ் வாட்? பணவீக்கம். பணவீக்கம் வீங்கிறதுனா என்னம்மா அர்த்தம்? இப்போது எனக்கு வீங்கி போச்சுன்னா நான் அப்படியே பயங்கர மசில் பில்ட் ஆகிடுச்சு நான் சொல்லுவோமா? சந்தோஷப்பட்டுப்போமா? அது வேஸ்ட்டு. there's an increase in volume without any use. An increase in volume without any use is வீக்கம். இல்லை வீங்கி போச்சு. ரைட்? வால்யூம் ஹேஸ் ரிசன் பட் தெர் இஸ் நோ யூஸ். அந்த வீக்கத்தை வச்சு ஒன்றும் பண்ண முடியாது. அப்போது இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் அதானே. அப்போது வீக்கம் இல்லாமல் இருக்கிறதுக்கு போது இருந்தது ஓல்டு மணி, வீங்கின அப்புறம் இருக்கிறது நியூ மணி. கரெக்டாக? இது இடிச்சுக்கிறதுக்கு முன்னாடி, வீங்கிறதுக்கு முன்னாடி 1 ரூபாயா இருந்தால் வீங்கின அப்புறம் 1.1 இருக்கும். இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் 10%. அந்த வீக்கத்தினுடைய அளவு 10%. ரைட்? பணம் வீங்கிய அளவு 10%. இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் இன் மணி இஸ் 10%. பண வீக்கம். ரைட்? கிரியேஷன் ஆஃப் வால்யூம் வித்தவுட் எனி வேல்யூ, அதுதான் இன்ஃப்ளேஷன். ஸோ அதே வேலை தான், அதே 10 ரூபா, அதே 100 ரூபா தான். ஆனால் இப்போ அதில் கம்மியாக தான் வாங்க முடியும்னா, அப்போது இப்போ ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் இந்த பேனாவை நான் 1 இயர் முன்னாடி 100 ரூபாய்க்கு வாங்குகிறேன். அதே பேனாவை இப்போ நான் 110 ரூபா கொடுத்து தான் வாங்கணும் அப்படின்னா எக்ஸ்ட்ராவாக நான் கொடுக்குறேன்ல 10 ரூபா. அந்த எக்ஸ்ட்ரா 10 ரூபாயில் வால்யூம் ஏறி இருக்குது, பணத்தோட வால்யூம் ஏறி இருக்குது. ஏதாவது எக்ஸ்ட்ராவாக மதிப்பு வந்ததா? அதே மொக்க பேனா தான். ரைட்? சேம் பென் ஒன்லி ஐ எம் பையிங். அப்போ பணம் வீங்கி இருக்குது, மதிப்பு வரல, பண வீக்கம். ரைட்? அதுதான் வீக்கம்னு சொல்கிறோம். ரைட்? அப்போது வீக்கத்துக்கு முன்னாடி இருந்தது என்ன, வீக்கத்துக்கு அப்புறம் இருக்கிறது என்ன? அப்போது இஃப் யூ டூ திஸ் மேத், கேன் எனி ஒன் டெல் மீ த நம்பர் ப்ளீஸ்? 106 into 1.1. divided by 1. 106 into 1.1 divided by 1. 106 into 1.1 by 1. What is the number, Amma? 106 into 1.1 by 1, or simply 106 into 1.1. I think it is 116.6. 116.6, I believe. Correct? 116.6 is the number. 116.6 is the number. 116.6 is the number. Shall I proceed? 116.6 is the number. அப்போ அவன் எனக்கு எவ்வளோ இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் சேர்த்து நான் கொடுக்க போகிற 100 ரூபீஸ்க்கு அவன் இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் சேர்த்துட்டான்னா 6% கொடுத்தா போருமா? எவ்வளோ கொடுக்கணும்? இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் சேர்த்துட்டான்னா he has to give me 16.6. Correcta? Inflation சேர்த்துட்டான்னா he has to give me how much? 16.6 rupees. 16.6 extra. 6 rupees பத்தாது. 6 கிடையாது. 6க்கு பதில் எவ்வளோ கொடுக்கணும்? 16.6 கொடுக்கணும். இப்போ 16.6ங்கிறது rupees 16.6 upon 100ங்கிறது எவ்வளோ percentage? Obviously 16.6%. It is 16.6%. ஆமாம், இதை தான் ஷார்ட்கட்டில் இந்த ஃபார்முலாவில் போட்டோம். நாமினல் டிஸ்கவுண்ட் ரேட்னு ரியல் ரிட்டர்ன், அந்த ப்ராஜெக்டோட உண்மையான ரிட்டர்ன் எனக்கு எவ்வளோ பர்சன்டேஜ்? 6%. 1.06 இன்டூ இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் 1 + இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் ரேட் 1.1. கரெக்டா? ஸோ 1.06 இன்டூ 1.1 பண்ணால் எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சு இது 1.166 வரும். minus 1 should be the nominal rate. 0.166. அம்மா நம்பர்ஸ் கரெக்டான்னு செக் பண்ணிக்கோங்கம்மா. நான் அப்படியே ஐ எம் ஜஸ்ட் டூயிங் இட் ஆஃப் மை மைண்ட், ஸோ கைண்ட்லி செக். எனி டிஃபரன்ஸ்னா கைண்ட்லி டெல் மீ. ரைட்? அப்போது ஐ ஹோப் யூ ஹாவ் அண்டர்ஸ்டுட் the background in this calculation. Right? என்ன ஆயிருக்குன்னு செக் பண்ணுங்க. பிரின்சிபல் ஒரு 100 ரூபா இருந்தது, ரிட்டர்ன் ஒரு 6 ரூபா இருந்தது, இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் ரெண்டுக்குமே அப்ளை ஆச்சு. இது ரியல் மணி. இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் பண வீக்கம், வெறும் வீக்கம். வால்யூம் வித்தவுட் வேல்யூ இஸ் இன்ஃப்ளேஷன். வால்யூம் வித்தவுட் வேல்யூ, வீங்கி போன மாதிரி கையை எங்கேயோ இடிச்சுன்னு வீங்கின்னு போனால் ஜிம்மில் போய் மசில் பில்டு பண்ணதாகாது. ஸோ வால்யூம் வித்தவுட் வேல்யூ. ஸோ இதில் எவ்வளோ வீங்கி இருக்குது? இதுக்கு 10%னா 10 ரூபா, இதுக்கு 10%னா 0.6. அப்போ வீக்கம் மட்டுமே எவ்வளோ எக்ஸ்ட்ரா கொடுக்கும்? யூ ஆர் ஏபிள் டு விஷுவலைஸ் 10.6 கொடுக்கும். அது தவிர அவன் எவ்வளோ கொடுக்கணும்? ரிட்டர்ன் கொடுக்கணும் 6 ரூபா. அப்போது இன்ஃப்ளேஷனுக்காக அவன் எவ்வளோ கொடுக்கணும்? 10.6 கொடுக்கணும். அண்டு ரியல் ரிட்டர்ன் எவ்வளோ கொடுக்கணும்? 6 கொடுக்கணும். ஸோ மொத்தமாக he has to give me 16.6. அப்போது இங்கே நம்ம ஃபார்முலாவில் என்ன போட்டோம்? 1 + r இன்ட்டு 1 + இன்ஃப்ளேஷன். ஆமாம், இது பிரின்சிபல் இன்ட்டு 1 + r. இந்த ஃபார்மேஷனில் தான் வருது. கரெக்டாக? இன்ஃப்ளேஷனுக்காக எக்ஸ்ட்ராவாக நான் கொடுக்க வேண்டிய ரிட்டர்ன், பணம் வீங்க போகிறது, அந்த வீக்கத்துக்காக நான் கொடுக்க வேண்டிய ரிட்டர்ன் 1 + r. கரெக்டாக? அண்ட் பிரின்சிபல். ஸோ இங்கே ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோங்க, அந்த வீக்கோன்றது உங்கள் ஒரிஜினல் பிரின்சிபல்லையும் அப்ளை ஆகும், உங்களுடைய ரியல் ரிட்டர்ன்லேயும் அப்ளை ஆகும். ரைட்? ஆப்வியஸில் அதுக்கு தான் இங்கே லாஜிக் நான் காமிச்சிட்டேன். இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் இல்லாத பண மதிப்புலேயே 1.06 இருக்குன்னா வீங்கினப்போ எவ்வளோ ஆகணும்? வீங்கினப்போ 1.06 × 1.1 ஆகணும். கரெக்டாக? 1.06 × 1. ஸோ லாஜிக்கலாக மைண்டில் எப்படி ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கணும்? both your original principal represented by 1 here and the real return represented by r here should both get compounded at the rate of inflation. Inflation compensation is needed on both. இதை சொன்னவருக்கு பேர் ஃபிஷர். இதை ஃபிஷர் எஃபெக்ட்னு எக்கனாமிக்ஸில் படிப்பீங்க, ஐஎஃப்எம்மில் இருக்குது இதே லாஜிக். ஃபிஷர் எஃபெக்ட்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. அதை இதுக்கு முன்னாடி வரைக்கும் காமனாக எப்படி யூஸ் பண்ணியிருந்தாங்கன்னா இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் பர்சன்டேஜ் ப்ளஸ் ரிட்டர்ன் பர்சன்டேஜ், அதாவது ரிஸ்க் ப்ரீமியம் இஸ் ஈக்குவல் டு காஸ்ட் ஆஃப் கேபிட்டல்னு போட்டுருந்தோம். இப்படி ப்ளஸ் பண்ணக்கூடாதுடா, நீ இப்படி ப்ளஸ் பண்ணனா இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் அஸ் அ பர்சன்டேஜ் தான் வரும், அந்த காம்பவுண்ட் எஃபெக்ட் ஆஃப் இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் வராது. இங்கே நீங்கள் ப்ளஸ் பண்ணியிருந்தீங்கன்னா 16 வந்திருக்கும், இங்கே 10+6 போட்டிருந்தீங்கன்னா 16 வந்திருக்கும். ஆனால் நம்மளுக்கு எவ்வளோ வந்திருக்கு? ஆக்சுவல் ரேட்டு 16.6 தேங்க்ஸ் டு ஃபிஷர், ரைட்? ஃபிஷர்ன்ற அந்த பொருளாதார நிபுணர், எக்கனாமிஸ்ட், ரைட்? திஸ் ஃபிஷர் ஃபெலோ, he only first perceived this logic. He said the old money will get inflated fully only, na, right? Whether it is old principal or old return, old principal or old return, nothing can be established in old terms. Understood? ஆமா, இன்ஃப்ளேஷனே இல்லாமல் 6% எதிர்பார்த்தா அப்போ இன்ஃப்ளேஷனோட 6.6, இன்ஃப்ளேஷனே இல்லாமல் 100 rupees பிரின்சிபல்னா இன்ஃப்ளேஷனோட 110 பிரின்சிபல். அப்போ 110 + 6.6 116.6. இதுதான் திங்கிங். You are able to visualize. Fisher said any old thinking money, that is any money that you thought of without inflation, now has to be bloated for inflation. இன்ஃப்ளேஷனை ஃபேக்டர் பண்ணாமல் நீங்கள் எந்த பணத்தை யோசிச்சிருந்தாலும் இப்போ அதை எதுக்கு சப்ஜெக்ட் பண்ணி ஃபேக்டர் பண்ணணும்? இன்ஃப்ளேஷனுக்கு சப்ஜெக்ட் பண்ணி ஃபேக்டர் பண்ணணும். ஸோ முன்னாடி பிரின்சிபல் 100 ரூபானா இப்போ 110 ரூபா. இன்ஃப்ளேஷனே மைண்டில் எடுக்காமல் 6% எதிர்பார்த்தீங்க இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட்டு, அப்போ இப்போ இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் சேர்த்திங்கன்னா 6.6, கரெக்டாக? அப்போ மொத்தம் 16.6 எதிர்பார்ப்போம். அது இந்த ஃபார்முலா தான் இது, கரெக்டாக? இங்கே -1 ஏம் பண்ணோம், பிரின்சிபல் ரிமூவ் பண்ணோம். இது ஒரிஜினல், ஆமாம், என்னுடைய ஒரிஜினல் இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் ப்ளஸ் எனக்கு வேணுங்கிற ரிட்டர்ன். திஸ் இஸ் ஆல் மணி இன் ஓல்டு டேர்ம்ஸ். என்னுடைய வீக்கம் இல்லாமல் ரியல் வேல்யூ டேர்ம்ஸ், ரியல் வேல்யூ டேர்ம்ஸ் இல்லை எனக்கு வர வேண்டிய பணம், அதில் இன்ஃப்ளேஷனை காம்பவுண்ட் பண்ணுறேன், வீக்கத்தை கொடுக்குறேன், கொடுத்தா வருது மொத்த பணம். அதுலேருந்து 1 ரிமூவ் பண்ணிட்டா, பிரின்சிபலை ரிமூவ் பண்ணிட்டா எனக்கு வரது அந்த வீக்கத்தோட ரேட் ஆஃப் வீக்கம், ரேட் ஆஃப் இன்ஃப்ளேஷன், சாரி ரேட் ஆஃப் ரிட்டர்ன். இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் இல்லாமல் இன்ஃப்ளேஷனும் இருக்குது, ரியலும் இருக்குல்லம்மா, ஸ்லிப் ஆஃப் டங் இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் சொல்லிட்டேன். ஸோ ரியலும் இங்கே இருக்குது, இன்ஃப்ளேஷனில் காம்பவுண்ட் பண்ணிட்டீங்க. ஸோ இட்ஸ் டோட்டல் காம்பவுண்டட், கரெக்டாக? டோட்டல் ரேட் தட் ஐ வாண்ட். அதுக்கு பேர் என்ன வச்சுருக்கான் பாருங்க அழகா, நாமினல் ரேட். Why is it called as nominal rate? Amma, what do you mean by nominal? Nominal na என்னமா அர்த்தம்? The word nominal, what does it mean? Amma, nominal na reasonable. Nominal na reasonable. True or false? False. Nominal na namesake. பேர் அளவில் மட்டும் அர்த்தம் நாமினல்னா, கரெக்டாக? நாமினல்னா அது பேர் அளவில் மட்டும், உண்மை கிடையாது. இப்போது அந்த டாக்டர் நாமினலாக ஃபீஸ் வாங்குறார் அப்படின்னா என்ன அர்த்தம்? ரீசனபிளாக வாங்குறாருன்னு அர்த்தம் கிடையாது. கம்மியாக வாங்குறாரு, சும்மா பேருக்கு வாங்குறாரு. 1 ரூபா, 5 ரூபா டாக்டர் நாமினல் ஃபீஸ், 500 ரூபா டாக்டர் ரீசனபிள் ஃபீஸ், 3000 ரூபா டாக்டர் காஸ்ட்லி ஃபீஸ். அப்படி கரெக்ட் தானே? இப்போ 5 ரூபாய்க்கு வாங்கினார்னா சும்மா ஃபீஸே வாங்காமல் பார்த்தோன்னா அவன் சும்மா போர் அடிக்கிறது வந்து பேசிட்டு போவான் நம்மக்கிட்ட, ரைட்? அப்போ அந்த மாதிரி ஆளை தடுக்கணுன்றதுக்காக ஒரு 5 ரூபா கொடுப்பான்னு கேட்குறோம். நாமினல், பேருக்கு வாங்குகிற ஃபீஸு நாமினல். அப்போ இது நாமினல் ரேட்டான். இப்போ அது உண்மையில ரேட் இல்லைப்பா, அது நாமினல் ரேட்டு. அப்போ ரியல் ரேட் 6%, ரைட்? உண்மையான ரேட்டு எவ்வளோ அழகாக பேர் வச்சுருக்கான் பாருங்கள், ரியல் ரேட். உண்மையான உங்கள் சம்பாத்திய ரேட்டுன்றது எது தான்? 6% தான். ஆனால் அதில் இன்ஃப்ளேஷனை கண்டாமினேட் பண்ணிட்டீங்கன்னா அதையும் ரேட்டுன்னு சொல்லிக்கலாம். ஆனால் பேரளவில் ரேட்டு நாமினல் ரேட். பேரளவில் அது ரேட்டு, ரைட்? உண்மை கிடையாது, பேரளவில் அது ரேட். நேம் சேக்குக்கு அதை நீங்கள் ரேட்டுன்னு சொல்லிக்கலாம். 16.6 16.6 ரேட்னு சொல்லிக்கலாம். பட் இன் ரியாலிட்டி the real rate of return from the project is only how much? The real rate of return from the project is only 6%. The real rate of return from the project is only 6%. Understood this? Shall I proceed? This is the basic understanding. So in the basic understanding நம்ம இன்னும் டெவலப் பண்ணணும். எக்ஸாமில் நம்ம ஸ்டடி மேட்டில் ஐ திங்க் சம் கொஷின்ஸ் ஆர் தேர் வேர் யூ ஆர் ஆஸ்ட் டு கன்வெர்ட் ஃப்ரம் ஹியர் டு தேர், தேர் டு ஹியர், அப்படி சம்ஸ் இருக்குது. அந்த ஸ்டடி மேட் சம்ஸும் போடலாம், இன்ஃப்ளேஷன் பேஸ்ட் ஸ்டடி மேட் சம்ஸும் போடலாம், எக்ஸாம் சம்ஸும் போடலாம் குயிக்காக. வில் டூ இட் இன் த நெக்ஸ்ட் கிளாஸ். பட் நம்ம டுடே Do you want to share anything? First day endratnala kekren. Do you want to share anything now? I have gone a bit slow today. As we go along, we'll pick up speed. எனக்கு இந்த modalities clear-ஆ இல்லை. So full online என்றதுனால I am just checking how it will work today. That's all. Amma, you guys are in mute or unmute? Amma? Can anyone or some of you respond? அம்மா நான் பேசுறதெல்லாம் கேட்குறதா? அம்மா ஆடியோ ஃபீட்பேக் இருந்தால் பெட்டர்மா. ஆடியோ ஃபீட்பேக் இருந்தால் பெட்டர்மா. ஆடியோ ஃபீட்பேக் இருந்தால் பெட்டர். See, especially I had this doubt whether I will be able to communicate in audio. அதனால தான் இன்றைக்கி நான் சம்ஸ் பெருசாக போடல, பேசிக் தியரி எடுத்திருக்கேன். I had this doubt. So all right. So I think I'm not getting any audio feedback, audio response. Okay then. So today's class will stop. Next class we will continue with this. Right? Next class we will continue with this. Any suggestions you have, you please tell me. Right? Thank you, friends.